Good morning, my dears. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your approach to healing and what your belief system is around healing. Do you believe that healing has to be this almost sacrificial, disciplined punishment to atone for your sins? Or can it be part of a pleasurable, joyous, returning to self and love and abundance process? Now, whilst I think the obvious answer is it can be the second, and maybe you get to choose that. I want to offer myself up as an example that I think being from a Christian, very light, but I went to Sunday school. I was raised in schools where there was Christian religion beliefs at assembly, and I went to Brownies and Guides, which are Christian influenced child organisations. So whilst I never classed myself as Christian, whilst I certainly never actively believed in God, I definitely have had that cultural conditioning that basically tells us that we're bad and we must be redeemed. And not only did I have that peppered in through my education system, through my social recreational system, I also made that a limiting belief after my biological father left home, left me, left the family when I was 3 years old. Obviously, I didn't know at 3 that's what I was doing, but through the last 6 years of self-healing, of inquiry, of loving myself and observing when the story gets triggered, oh, hang on a minute, this isn't just about that incident, this is me making it mean that I'm bad and that's why I've attracted it. So it's still I don't want to use the word weed, but it's hanging on. These limiting beliefs, these root beliefs, they hang on, especially ones that are formed early on in childhood. So that's sort of using myself as an example to show why when I embarked on a healing journey, it was I must atone for my sins. I'm doing something wrong because that's why life isn't working out for me. And I found myself in India in an ashram doing a strict yoga teacher training. And I also want to preface, there's nothing wrong with strict, dogmatic, disciplined activities, and it's also a way of forming respect, ritual, humility for source, for a power that's bigger than us. And particularly in the West, I think that there's some energy that we can be so much in our own ego as a human, as a power being, that we've forgotten humility and co-creation and the dance with the divine. So just to say there's nothing wrong, it's more about, as always, your intention, your approach. And I certainly wanted these disciplined, dogmatic routines and programs to fix something that was broken in me, to give me a new education, to give me a new structure that was coming from outside rather than from inside out. And I definitely, for the first 3 years of my healing journey, it was about me becoming good through the healing. It was about me getting to this place where I didn't have to struggle. It was about me getting to this place where I could avoid challenge because I'd be so zen, so spiritual, so wise and humble that God would love me. And if God loved me, then I wouldn't go through challenge and adversity. And what's happening 6 years on in my healing journey is when there is challenge and adversity, because there always will be, it's an opportunity for us to develop resilience, stamina, empowerment, strength, to look at our shadow sides where we play victim. But I'm noticing how much I still have that story of I must be bad and that's why this is happening, and misappropriating the principles of the law of attraction to be a stick to beat myself with. Clearly I've called in this experience because I'm bad and I haven't done enough healing and I haven't fixed myself yet, when actually you can have these experiences as mirrors, as reflections, as distortions, as opportunities to step up and grow and be empowered. Yes, you've called them in, but it's not because you're bad and you're suffering because you're bad. There's a real difference there in terms of how you approach challenge and things you've got to endure and thrive through and from. And I've also noticed my meaning making machine. There's an aspect of myself that will be like, why is this happening? It must be because I've not done enough work. I'm not good enough yet. And I don't hold that as a seated belief that I want anymore. I'm aware that it's in my backpack Despite, emptying it, there seems to be remnants of this weed still regrowing because I haven't got to the root yet. But again, that's not because I haven't done enough work. It's not because I haven't meditated enough. It's not because I don't love myself enough. It's just the reality that this is a deep-seated weed, a root, and that actually the awareness and the observation of where it's in play is part of me removing it, part of me removing its power and its influence, because we have to see the weed and the depth of the weed and the extent of the weed before we can then say, okay, now I'm going to go in and remove it. So that's like the endurance and the discipline and dogmatic and the grueling, get your hands dirty and really meet your shadow. That is an important part of the healing journey. And sometimes, we do need to get honest and straight talking about where we've been playing small, letting ourselves down, playing the victim, doing bad things. We all do bad things. It doesn't make us bad people. Okay, there is no good, there is no bad, there's just experiences. But another side journey of my healing journey has been about pleasure and abundance and love and joy. And I was chatting to a friend last night, and they're at a stage in their healing journey where they believe, and again, there's no judgment, I just offered this up as an alternative. They're in the place where they really want to call out their shit and their shadow, and they're like, no, this needs some straight talking, this needs some honesty, this needs, I actually need to confront this demon, and that's a very combative, grueling experience, because you need to be ready for the fight and you need to, get yourself ready. And there are ways, they are good ways to beat your shadow sometimes. Like everybody's healing journey is unique and every stage of the healing journey is unique. But what I flag is that your belief system? Is that your weed that you need to go into battle with aspects of yourself all the time? Because that's the approach that you're taking to your healing journey. Or can you take an approach that says, yeah, I see that there's weeds and there's stuff in this backpack that I'm not a fan of, and I can see that they're there, but I'm going to love myself through the removal or the observation and the removal of this. I'm going to give myself a shoulder massage because this backpack's still really heavy of the crap and the burdens and the shadow that I'm carrying that I don't want to carry, but I'm still too scared to really get my hands, deep down in that backpack and pull everything out. So can I give myself some love as I acknowledge where I'm at? And there's a second sort of pin to this pleasure, joy, and abundance being part of the healing journey. And I'm going to share something quite personal. So my specific healing journeys also involve sexuality and sexual energy. And for most of my adult life, I was feeling that there was something wrong with me because I was finding casual sex experiences devoid of meaning, connection, and I am sensitive and have also not had a lot of romantic love connections. And they actually triggered a wound in me that I was never good enough for men, that I wasn't being fully seen, fully held, wasn't fully safe because they were casual fun. I had lots of fun in those encounters, but they weren't feeding me, they weren't nourishing me because of what was in my backpack. And again, it's not to pass judgment on anybody else's experience. I'm just using my own as an example for you. I had no idea before I had my spiritual awakening, my breakdown, that sex could be any other way. In the West, particularly when I was growing up, Sex in the City, there was a huge narrative around women having sex like men and women having casual sex, that it's fun and expressive. And again, it can be all those things. But I felt like I was wrong because I wasn't able to access it in the way that I was seeing, depicted around me in peers, in magazines and in television programs. And again, because I had that root wound, I must be bad, I must be wrong because I'm not accessing this like everybody else who's normal. During my spiritual healing journey, and it's still ongoing, I have experienced tantric healing principles, which is cultivating and using sexual energy, sexual pleasure and the body to have greater spiritual connected states and pleasure states. So for me, it's been about going deeper through the pleasure to activate power, to activate love, to really understand that sexual energy isn't just about the transaction between, for me, male, female, and getting off and getting on with your life. It's about it's about slowing down and going deeper within yourself so that you can offer more to your partner in those moments where you choose to come together in sacred sexual union. And the thing that started to happen whilst I was exploring this, and again, there was still some stick and some carrot, but over the years, it's changed my system. It's made me, yes, take a hard look at where I was, say, going for opportunities and experiences that weren't fully nourishing me. But because I know there's pleasure and more connection and more fulfillment for me, more nourishment in the more tantric sacred connection side of sexuality and sexual interaction, casual sex has lost even more of its attraction or its meaning or its allure to me. It doesn't scratch the itch. So why am I going to do it? Because I know that there's better and there's more for me if I go down other routes. And that's the same with self-pleasure. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying pleasure and abundance. Firstly, we do have to get honest and say, this isn't working for me. How can I transmute that? And it's not about transmuting it because it's a bad aspect of you and I must get rid of it and I must, move on from this. It makes me bad. I'm bad. It's a bad thing. It's like, well, what's the other higher vibrational aspects of this? Because for me, with sexuality, if I hadn't had the dysfunction and the disconnection through casual sex, I wouldn't have gone looking for something more sacred. And I wouldn't be having, completely different embodied, pleasurable, joyous, orgasmic experiences through these new practices that I had to go and learn and find and I'm still working with. So as I stay in that side of things, as I stay in that state of discovery, of seeking, of pleasure, of joy, of continuing to look in that direction, I don't want to be distracted and to turn back. So if and as and when there are opportunities for casual attachments, I'm not even interested anymore. It's like I've changed my taste buds. Anyone who's done like a no sugar diet or come off fizzy drinks will know that once you've flipped that switch that says, I know that's not good for me and I no longer desire it, you can have it. You can have your fizzy, Coke, but it doesn't taste as good because you've changed from the inside out. And that's really what I want to end on, is your healing journey. It doesn't have to be about sacrifice, about punishment, about determination and dogmatic sort of diligence and discipline where you beat yourself down saying, no, I must eradicate this side of me completely. Your desire for sexuality, for sexual connection, that desire is pure. But there are different roads and avenues that we can go down in order to get that itch scratched. And for me, that casual sex avenue is far less fulfilling and attractive because I've sampled something better and new, and I make that choice to stay with that pleasure and joy as opposed to just denying myself everything, yeah? And saying I can't have that because it doesn't feel good and there's nothing else. I'm actually moving into states of pleasure and joy, so you get to choose. And your healing journey can be pleasurable. It can be full of joy and abundance and love and celebration. You can celebrate the fact that you're healing yourself. You can celebrate the fact that you're making healthier choices. You can celebrate yourself that you're not drinking the Coke and that you're having the filtered whatever water from wherever springs. You can celebrate that rather than choosing to curse yourself for ever wanting the Coke in the first place and for the years that you spent mindlessly chugging it back. So it's a healing journey of self-love, and it's really important, I think, that we move more into the states of being, of experience that we want more of. So if you've come from a place of denial, of restriction, of starving yourself of love and joy and comfort and nourishment, that's not going to be the approach that's going to best heal you. We all need more love, and the best place to find it is through your own self-love and support as you go through your healing journey. All right, I hope that's helpful. I just offer it up as a gift of hard-learned wisdom, and I am still, making mistakes as I go along. Not mistakes, learning opportunities. All right, much love. Speak to you soon.